Welcome to Picks with the Professor, a sports betting show brought to you by a real statistics professor and his friends. We are back to make picks, baseball picks for Friday, April 11th, 2025. I was thinking about this as I was looking through the team records. How are we already starting the third week of baseball? It does not feel like we're already at the third week, but here we are. It's seemingly going by quickly. I will change that in a month. I will say the season is dragging, but right now it feels like it's going by really fast.
I think it has to do with like the NBA still happening. If you partake in that, NHL still happening. There's just so much happening. I think it goes at a different pace than in a month or so when especially once we get past the first round of hockey and basketball, when it really starts to dwindle. It starts to go at a completely different speed at that point.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. Even some people out there would be paying attention to the NFL draft, get past the NFL draft, get past the NHL playoffs, the NBA playoffs, and then, end of July, beginning of August, the night that the ESPYs are on. I think that's like the night after the All-Star game or something like that. That is like the worst night on the sports calendar. But anyway, for now, baseball's moving by quickly. We'll take a rain check on that and come back and check on that in a couple of months or so. Normally we give an update on yesterday's picks, but we went 1-1 so far. One game still going. So that last game, the Braves game, will kind of be the deciding factor whether we're up or down on our picks for April 10th.
And the loss, because Jared, you and I were talking before we came on, it kind of played out just like we thought. It was a close game. It was tied after 5. If you bet the first 5 market, then we had a quick lead, and then we gave it right back. It stayed a one-run game the whole time, and that's what we said was, who the heck knew what was going to happen? Let's take our plus odds. Didn't work out for us. We have one today that's kind of similar, that hopefully we have something that flips in our factor for this next one.
Good. So with that being said, we'll go ahead and get right into things. Just a couple of reminders on Sideline. This is a player-based model, so it reflects the current roster. And again, this is everything from IL, paternity lists, suspensions, everything you could possibly imagine. Average grade is 100. So when you see a larger number, that's good for offense. Lower number, better for defense. So, pitchers, low numbers, good. Offense's low numbers bad. We're projecting an average game, but one game is unknown, and anything is a good bet at the right price or number. And just a reminder, if you're serious about sports betting, join us over on Dub Club. The Honor Roll All Access package gets you access to Discord, where there's lots of good, valuable information being exchanged every day. I kind of mentioned it yesterday, but Masters, I promise you there will be people exploring all of the golf prop markets for the Masters, projections and probabilities from the professor here for baseball and hockey, and then detailed summary and notes on everything. And just a reminder that if you use the link in the show description to sign up, you get half off your first month. So don't miss out on that offer. So the first game that we're going to talk about for Friday is the Pirates at the Reds. First pitch for this game at 6:40 p.m. Eastern. Bailey Falter on the mound for the Pirates, going against Brady Singer for the Reds. I've watched almost every inning of the 13-inning Pirates-Cardinals game from a couple of days ago. And it was tough. It also featured one of the most strange plays at the plate that I've ever seen, where two Pirates fielders collided with each other and missed a ball. And one of the Cardinals runners tried to sneak through and score a run. But for some reason, there was a third Pirates fielder that didn't knock himself out and ended up with the ball and tagged the Cardinals runner. You just have to go watch it. I'm not doing it justice. But that is how I would describe both the Pirates and the Reds so far this season. Both of these offenses, honestly, I'm surprised that the Reds are 28. I don't know off the top of my head who's last, but I would have guessed it was the Reds if you hadn't told me otherwise. Terry Francona said that they were trying to make a human sacrifice to the gods of batting, but nobody volunteered. And so that's why they weren't doing well. That's the kind of analysis you get from baseball managers, people. I mean, that's why you love baseball. For me, this seems pretty straightforward. Like both of these offenses are just absolutely terrible. The starting pitcher falters not great. Singer's pretty solid. And that may be enough to get this game to go under. So our official play is under 8.5, laying a little bit of juice with that. Professor, why do you like the under 8.5?
It took me longer than I cared to admit to come up with the three teams off the top of my head without cheating and looking, but they would be the Marlins, the White Sox, and the Rockies. Of course, three teams that we love to hate on. These are two other very bad offenses. So that's one reason that I like it. Another thing, of course, you talked about Brady Singer. I am curious about the first five market. We might also want to dabble in that as well. So for people who like to split their wager, that could be something, avoiding these bullpens. But either way, it's not like the offenses are going to magically get better. Because I get to play the role of guest host here today, I figured I had to pull a cousin Jared and give the hard-hitting analysis of reading box scores.
My favorite type of analysis.
Your favorite type of analysis. But I just have to point out, I'm not going to actually read every single game, but I'm going to read more than you would think for the Reds. The Reds in games this year have scored 0 runs 3 times. They've scored 1 run once. They've scored 2 runs 3 times and 3 runs 2 times. They've also scored 11 and 14. Other than 6 and 4, I've literally hit every number. That is all of them they've scored. They haven't scored 5. They haven't scored 7 or 8 or 9 or 2. And that's the thing I think that's interesting about this Reds team. And of course, all 3 of those zeros are notorious because they were back-to-back 1-0 losses. So they've also played in some low-scoring games. One of the games they scored 2 in, and the game they scored 1 in, they also allowed 0. So because they've already played in 4 1-0 baseball games, and a fifth that was 2-0 just for fun. They've played in 2-3-2 games already. So clearly this team is very comfortable playing in low-scoring games. The other thing that I like about this pick is the fact that it's under 8.5. We always talk about we like to go over a kind of quasi-key number like 8.5, whereas we like to go more under a quasi-key number like 7.5, and that's absolutely true. I love when a game is 4-4 and we get the win. I hate when a game is 4-4 and we get the loss. But in a hitter-friendly ballpark like this, anytime the total's 8.5 and the model still says A-grade strong play to the under, I kind of just roll with it and say, hey, everybody knows about this part. Everybody knows about 8.5. Everybody wants to be on that over. Send me the other direction because in general, that kind of contrarian spirit's going to do us more good than it is harm.
So it's like you're saying they might be trying to bait some people with the 8.5 out there and hoping people will say, oh yeah, I can win at 9.
It's maybe less bait and more just they know how the market's going to react. They know what would happen if they hung a 9, and they know what's going to happen at 8.5. And the result for them is going to more so balance the books on something like this than if they were, in my opinion, to hang a 9. I think, excuse me, not a 9, an 8. I went the wrong direction. There's something like an 8. They're going to get way too many people in that park out of principle going over. And so it's less about baiting and just more about, I know what people a lot of times think, and in general, that's probably going to be wrong about 55% of the time. So I'll be right at 55% and be happy if most people are going to look at that part an 8.5 and just go blindly over again with the model saying under. Let's do it.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. I like that thought there. You mentioned the first five market on this one. I will emphasize again, after watching 13 innings of the Cardinals and the Pirates, I would love to back something the first five innings here and be done with this game and not have to pay attention to it anymore. So
God,
I
that
am
would be terrible. We've got under 8.5 in this game. We did have to lay a little bit of juice, I guess, but like we're
yeah,
under 8.5, and it's like 0-0-1-1 in the bottom of the ninth, and you're like, oh my God, please let this
yeah,
end right now.
yes,
Please, I need this to end. And then every
yeah,
inning it goes, and
yeah,
then it gets a 2-2, and then it gets a 3-3. Be like, this isn't
yeah,
happening. This is it
yeah,
would just be
yeah.
like the longest, slowest, most painful Friday night death ever. It
Yeah,
would be
yeah.
so bad.
People ask, and you've asked me before, how do I, split my bets over, full game versus first five or something like that. This is definitely one I would love to split my bet, full game first five. Hopefully win the first five, and then just I don't care at that point. So
Hey,
yeah,
I don't think that's crazy at all. And
no,
you can
no,
see there our first five number, we think it should be about 4. So if you're
yeah,
getting a 4.5, go under, and we think
yep.
4 is pretty likely. And if you get that winner on a really likely number, boom, there you go.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And look at this for those of us that are, going to be on the under here. The Reds offense is actually worse against left-handers than they are against right-handers.
Hard to believe,
Yeah, hard to believe, but here we are. So
but here
we've
we
got
are.
that going
Yeah.
in our favor. And again, viewers, this is just an example of what you get over on Dub Club. Get this kind of breakdown for every single game and every sport that the professor runs his model for. So the second game that we're going to talk about is the Angels at the Astros. First pitch in this one, 8:10 p.m. Eastern. Jack, oh, now I see why you wanted me to host the show. Kokanowitz, I'm going to go with,
I think
versus
it's a
Rennell
soft C. I think it's like Kohanowitz, but I could be wrong.
Kohanowitz. Coke.
I
Oh,
don't
okay.
know.
Yeah, I was thinking like the Koch brothers. That's neither
That
here nor
works.
there. We've really covered everything here on the show
Yeah.
now. Versus Renel Blanco for the Astros. Um, I would say the offenses here, the Angels so far this season better than what I would have anticipated. Astros a little bit worse than I would have anticipated. Both starting pitchers here not looking great. The relievers, the sideline has an edge on the Astros. We actually last show we talked about some of the numbers that you provide, kind of like a almost like a depth versus like the top end guys in the bullpen. I would like to see what that is for the Astros. I assume that have very good top end depth, not great. But even with all of that in mind, sideline has the Astros winning this game 58% of the time. That means we have a B grade on the Astros -1. That works out to about Astros -1 at plus 105 odds. So we're going to be hoping that the Astros win this game by more than one run. Professor, why do you like backing the Astros here?
I looked it up. It's Kohanowitz. I didn't realize it was
Kohanowitz.
Han, so we were
Okay.
close on that one.
Hmm.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously not anything to do with the starting pitching. That's obviously not a strength for either team. Bullpen wise, you are correct, of course, that the top end guys of Hader and Abreu specifically get their top end guys into the 80s. Whereas their overall guys, depth guys, are more into the 90s. That's where the overall rating is there at number 11. So that's really the edge. Oh, honestly, this profiles a lot to me, just like the day game here that we had on Thursday that we talked about. We couldn't get on the right side of, where we had the better team with the better bullpen, but playing on the road. We said that was a coin toss. It turned out to be a coin toss. Here we've got the team with the better bullpen, but they're playing at home. We have to pay a price for it. But hopefully at least that gets us on the right side of the winner this time. But that's why we're, of course, in the -1 market. Because, Jared, we often talk about which market you might want to play in. We never love to be in the -1.5 market on the home team. You can do it, of course. That's priced into the market, so you're not really getting a benefit if you do it, other than potentially people don't like to do it, but that's not going to be very much value, maybe a cent or two. probably at most. This money line I thought was fairly reasonable, more in the minus, 140 range. I don't think minus 140 is a crazy price to pay. Because how do you view this game with regards to? I haven't watched as much Astros baseball this year as I would hope to. With regards to just laying something like a minus 140 and getting at a Dodge with the win versus laying the minus one, getting plus odds, and just knowing that, hey, if the Astros win by one, if they walk off single or anything besides a walk-off multi-run homer, you get the push. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I like this. I like this a lot better, actually. And my reason for liking that is I don't think this is going to be a one-run game, is what I would say. Either way, if either one of these teams wins, the Angels could be the Angels and the Astros could win this game by 4 runs, or the Astros could do what they've done recently and the bats disappear, or the bullpen blows a lead, or they don't get a good start from Blanco, and the Angels could win this game 5-2 or something like that. So it's just one of those things that I just don't see this being necessarily a one-run game. And if that's the case, the odds work out to giving me the Astros, who should be favored at slightly plus odds. Like you said, if they win by more than one, win. If they win by one, I push. I'm happy with that. And the other thing I want to say about the Angels, so I am of two minds of the Angels. Number one, they do have the third best run differential in the American League, so they do have that going for them. But they took 2 out of 3 from the White Sox. They took 2 out of 3 from St. Louis, both of those wins in extra innings. They took 2 out of 3 against Cleveland, but they were catching Cleveland on the games 7, 8, and 9 of a road trip to start the season. None of that necessarily impresses me, but then they went on the road and took 2 out of 3 from the Rays. I don't think the Angels are going to be good. I think they have had a relatively easy schedule and caught some teams at easier spots. I'm kind of watching the Angels because they might be a little bit better than I thought, but I'm not ready to make that call yet. So I'm going to stick with the Astros, take my plus odds if they win by more than 1 run.
I think that makes a lot of sense. And the last thing I will add is just, it's not that they can't, of course, win by 1. And of course, you never know with Hader involved, right? This game could be a 4-1 run game, and then all of a sudden it's a 1-run game. And then you're in that weird conflicted, like, do I just root for this thing to end and we just push, or what do we do, right? But I agree with you in that you say, that does happen, but I think that's more of that we always remember when we get in the wrong grocery line kind of thing. It's just that way our minds work. It's not so much that that's overly likely. It's more likely that one of these teams gets up, uses better relievers, the other team gets down, uses weaker relievers, and you're looking at a game that's more 8-3, in the 7th inning, and someone's cruising to a victory. So I'm like you. I still like that -1 because I don't think we're paying that much for that protection just in case. But I do think that, getting the plus odds is nice for what we think could easily be an Astros runaway victory. Or maybe the Angels are legit and they run away and, hey, now we've got ourselves a better price. No big deal, right?
Yeah. Well, and I'll say like 60% of the reason that I married Miss Cousin Jared is because she does the grocery shopping. So I can't relate to your shorter line at the grocery store, but I can relate to the shorter line at the drive-through at Chick-fil-A or McDonald's or something. Happy Meals, very big at my house. So
of course, you talked about the Angels and this being a big weekend for them. They of course get Blanco, Gusto, and Wesneski for the Astros. So it's not even so much that they get a huge test either, But it will say a lot because if the Astros with those 3 guys, not getting from or Hunter Brown against them, if the Astros take all 3, maybe that says we got to hold up on the hype here on the Angels.
There you go. So last game that we're going to talk about, Rangers at the Mariners. First pitch on this game, 9:40 p.m. Eastern. Jacob deGrom on the mound for the Rangers, going to go up against Bryce Miller for the Mariners. The Mariners looked dead in the water against the Astros. Seattle was looking like they were going to drop their fourth straight series to start the season. And then something happened and things went crazy. I'm still not high on the Mariners. I came on this show last week, I think it was, or 2 weeks ago. You and I talked about how, the Mariners have a top 10 offense according to Sideline. And then I came on here and says, well, it's 15 right now. I wouldn't be surprised if they're more 17 or 18. And lo and behold, they're down to 19 now. So Sideline adjusting fairly quickly on this one. Rangers have the better offense, not surprising. Rangers have the
Look
better
at that total.
yeah, it's low. I would probably say there might be more than one good play on this game outside of the one that we're going to talk about. But something you can't say when a team's going against the Mariners every night. Rangers have the starting pitching edge in this one, and then the relievers. Mariners do have a slight edge there. Sideline projects that the Rangers win this game 57% of the time. Our official play is going to be Rangers minus 123. I know why I like this pick. Professor, why do you like this pick?
Well, I think a couple reasons, and then I'll tell you one reason why I'm nervous about it, and give us an alternative suggestion as well. You kind of mentioned it, of course, the model souring on the Mariners offense. The model hasn't been overly high on the Rangers, overly loving fading the Mariners. So even if it's a small edge, I think that's probably worth backing. And I think we do have a little bit of an edge on the Rangers. I think we have a little bit of an edge on the Rangers because the model's not that high on Bryce Miller. And I'm not saying that the model should or shouldn't be. But he does kind of stand out right now as a little bit of a weak spot potentially for this Mariners rotation that's usually just been so insanely strong. When you go underneath the hood, his per inning grade actually grades out really close to league average. He does seem like a guy who can probably give you 6, but that's not actually what the Mariners need necessarily. They have a lot of guys who can already do that. They need more guys who can give them a stronger 5 than a weaker 6, which I think is what he does. And I just have to contrast that with DeGrom. And I had to tell people on the Discord this previously. On the per inning basis, we've still got DeGrom graded out as a 74. So the model's really giving him a lot of respect. It's just concerned he's not going to go more than 5 innings. Obviously, at some point in this season, he will build up to be stronger. But you do have a really strong pitcher there in DeGrom. Of course, only fear is with a weaker bullpen for the Rangers and DeGrom not going deep. Those last few innings are going to be a little bit of a hold your breath. And that's where we just hope that it, is 3-0 early and stays 3-0 for the rest of the game, I suppose.
Yeah. So I agree with everything you said. My view on it, the first one was a little bit similar to what you said. DeGrom, obviously, health is always the concern. But he's not been like, and maybe I'm misremembering, but I don't feel like he's been like other pitchers coming back from injuries. It's like, if he's playing, he's good. Like there hasn't ever been a time where he hasn't been on the field and hasn't been at a really top tier level. So as long as this isn't the game that DeGrom gets hurt, I feel good about backing him. So that was very similar to what you said, though. Like, it's yes, he may not be able to give you all that length, but the time that you are going to get from him, I think is going to be really good. The other aspect of it is Sideline is like the Mariners so far. Sideline is adjusting to the Mariners. I want to capitalize on that time period before maybe the books start catching up to how the Mariners aren't as good as we thought. So we have had a lot of A grades on the Mariners, A grade sides on the Mariners so far this year. And so the fact that it's bounced back here and thinks the Rangers are the play, I'm more than happy to fade the Mariners whenever Sideline says to do that. So that's kind of I think.
Yeah, I don't know how I'm supposed to feel about that. It's definitely some sort of way. And I will point out, of course, too, that DeGrom only threw 10.2 innings last year. He only threw 30 innings the year before that. He only threw 64 before that. If you go back the year before that, he threw 92. That was not in the pandemic-shortened season. Now, his numbers then were fantastic, but he still didn't get to 100 innings. And the viewer might be concerned about DeGrom because this year his underlying metrics aren't that great. And I would say they absolutely are not. The xFIP and the FIP are both above 4. I'm not really worried about the ERA as much as I'm looking at those two metrics and a couple other things. But the model is taking that into consideration and actually giving him a little bit of a downgrade there. And it's not really giving him a bump up yet for his innings. So even if we see a slightly weaker DeGrom, more one that we've seen this year that might have a little bit more concern, I don't think the model is going to really be taken by surprise and say, oh my gosh, I thought we were getting Cy Young DeGrom. And if we actually do get back to Cy Young DeGrom, I think the model is going to be really quick to get back there. It's just going to, be 3 or 4 starts, and he hasn't done it yet. But he's still obviously a very, very good pitcher. And that's, again, crazy to me that we've got a guy who's thrown a grand total of, 50 innings in the last 3 years and barely, not even whatever 200 in the last, half decade is better than one of these young Mariners pitchers. But I still think he is.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons why the Mariners make a lot of sense here.
Yeah. Again, just if this isn't the game where he gets hurt, then I think you're in good shape. So that is all of the picks that we have for today's show. If you want more free picks, like I said, join us over there on Dub Club, working on limited access to Discord. We will make sure that everybody is aware once that becomes available. Follow us on X, the artist formerly known as Twitter, all of those different social medias. Professor, do you have anything that you want to leave our viewers with today?
No, I mean, just excited, to have another week in the books and continue forward here with more baseball and hockey. It's a good time of year.
It is a good time of year. Well, thank you all very much for watching and listening. And just want to leave you with, remember that you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.